Dawn Treader Stories present a thrilling but romantic story entitled Where the Currents Meet. Celeste stood at the cafe in Bergen, clutching her phone with cold hands, waiting for Rafael. They had promised to meet here, a brief reunion after months apart, before their jobs pulled them to opposite corners of the world again. But hours passed and Rafael never came. The tourists at Bergen wharf ebbed and flowed like the tides, and the cafe lights dimmed as evening settled. No message, no call. It was unlike him. Celeste wandered the cobblestone streets of Bergen that night, hoping to spot him among the alleyways or along the quiet harbor. The fear gnawed at her, a hollow, foreboding ache that whispered Rafael wasn't simply late, something had gone wrong. The last call. 2 weeks ago they had spoken by video call. Rafael looked tired but excited. He had just completed a grueling contract in Saudi Arabia and planned to fly to Norway for their meeting. His voice, always steady, wavered a little when they talked about the future, about when they might finally settle in one place, without chasing fleeting moments in foreign cities. Celeste had brushed it off as exhaustion. Now, she wondered if there had been more to it. As her ship stayed docked in Bergen, Celeste traced Rafael's planned route obsessively. She contacted the airline and found that he had indeed landed in Norway 2 days ago. But from the airport his trail vanished. No hotel check-ins, no social media updates, nothing. When she tried calling his cousin, hoping for news, the number was disconnected. She knew Rafael wasn't the type to disappear. Something or someone had taken him away. A stranger's clue. The next day, as Celeste roamed the city again, she noticed a man in a trench coat standing under a flickering street lamp. His eyes glinted strangely as he approached her. "You're looking for someone, aren't you?" he asked. Her heart quickened. "Do you know Rafael?" The man smiled, a slow, unsettling grin, and handed her a folded piece of paper. Before she could ask more, he disappeared into the mist. When she opened the note, she found a rough sketch of 2 figures standing at the edge of a waterfall. Beneath it, the words, "Where the currents meet, there lies the truth." Mistaken identity. Later that night, Celeste dreamed of Rafael again. In her dream, he stood by a fjord, pale and disoriented, as shadows loomed behind him. He tried to speak, but the words dissipated into the mist, and he turned away, vanishing into the woods. When she woke, the dream's strange clarity lingered, as if it were a warning. Following the cryptic sketch, Celeste made her way to a remote fjord the next morning. Something in her gut told her she would find answers there. After hours of hiking, she found a small wooden boat waiting by the riverbank, tethered as if left for her. As she pushed off into the water, the mist grew thick, and the world around her blurred. It was there, halfway between dream and reality, that she found Rafael. Rafael's ordeal. He lay unconscious on the shore, clothes torn and muddy, a haunted look etched across his face. Celeste rushed to him, holding him close until he stirred awake. "Celeste," Rafael whispered, his voice hoarse. "They took me." His story spilled out slowly. When he arrived at the airport in Norway, men posing as immigration officers intercepted him. They spoke in hushed tones, asking questions that made no sense, about his ties to an oil magnate and his knowledge of international finances. Rafael insisted they had the wrong person, but it didn't matter. They were convinced he was someone else, a wealthy businessman's son with whom he shared an uncanny resemblance. Rafael was taken to a remote hideout, held captive for ransom. He had been drugged repeatedly and interrogated, confused and helpless. He learned that the kidnappers were part of a shadowy network, an international crime syndicate that trafficked in ransom deals. To them, Rafael was just a pawn, an accidental catch in a web spun across borders. They never realized their mistake until one of the captors finally checked his background and discovered he was an ordinary laborer, not the heir they had sought. Fearing exposure, they abandoned him in the forest, leaving him to wander disoriented through the woods. A mystical reunion. As Rafael finished recounting his ordeal, Celeste held him tighter, her heart heavy with relief and lingering fear. They had found each other again, against impossible odds, but the experience had scarred them both. The boat drifted gently back through the mist, carrying them toward the town. The air felt heavy with something unexplainable, an unseen current that had pulled their lives together, even through chaos and misfortune. Under the northern lights that night, as they stood side by side on the quiet dock, Rafael whispered, "I thought I lost you forever." Celeste smiled through her tears. The world can pull us apart, but it can't stop us from finding each other. Where the currents meet. Their love, Celeste realized, was like the rivers that fed the fjords, always flowing, sometimes diverted, but destined to meet again. The danger had passed, but the mystery of their connection lingered. Perhaps it was fate, or maybe something more, something magical that thrived in the spaces between dreams and reality. As the mist rolled in once more, Celeste felt certain of one thing: no matter where life's currents carried them next, they would always find their way back to each other. The end. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to our channel for more stories, and share to others who might like stories like this.